Hi, and welcome to this course on design patterns in Swift. My name is Dimitri, and I'm here to take you on a journey that will hopefully take your Swift coding skills to a whole new level. So we're going to be talking about patterns, but what exactly are design patterns? Well, design patterns are quite simply common architectural approaches that have been observed in software engineering practices, and these common approaches are expressed in the form of so-called design patterns. Now, a pattern is nothing more than a description of the approach, how it is expressed in a programming language, and what it's actually used for. The notion of design patterns was popularized in 1994 by the immortal Gang of Four book. Now, this book effectively spun off an entire industry devoted to expressing design patterns in various languages. The notion of design patterns has been translated to just about every object-oriented programming language that's out there, so you'll find books on design patterns in C#, Java, Ruby, and a lot of other languages as well. Now, the curious thing about design patterns, and ultimately the reason why you're watching this course right now, is that because we're still living in an object-oriented paradigm, they have become universally relevant. In other words, the patterns didn't become outdated and obsolete and are unlikely to go out of fashion anytime soon. Furthermore, some programming languages actually made design patterns part of the language, making the patterns a lot easier to use. Design patterns have also been packaged into libraries as common approaches that people can simply download and use, and I'm pretty sure that if you're a developer, you're already using at least some of the design patterns, perhaps not even realizing that you're doing so. Now, this course is composed of 4 parts. So the first part of the course covers the solid design principles, and these principles are applicable across all of the design patterns that we're going to encounter, so it's best to be aware of them before we jump into the patterns themselves. And once you've familiarized yourself with the solid principles, we're going to discuss the 3 categories of design patterns. This is something that's called the Gamma categorization. It's named after Eric Gamma, one of the original Gang of Four authors. So here are the patterns that we're going to consider. Now, the patterns we'll take a look at, they reflect almost identically the contents of the original Gang of Four book with only 1 or 2 minor variations. So we'll begin by discussing the creational patterns, and here we'll take a look at all the usual ones, although I've taken the liberty of grouping the abstract factory and factory method patterns under a single course section because these 2 patterns are very closely related. Then we're going to take a look at the structural design patterns, and these are the same exact ones as in the Gang of Four book. And finally, we'll take a look at behavioral design patterns, and one extra pattern that has been added here is the null object pattern. But apart from that, all the patterns are once again the same that you'll encounter in the original book. So let's talk about the organization of this course. This course is 100% practical, which means I'm going to be demonstrating it using live coding. You're not going to see any UML anywhere in this course. Now, all of the demos that I'm going to do are going to be single Swift files, so you can download them and you can run them in Xcode, AppCode, CLine, or simply run them from the command line Swift interpreter. We're also going to have end of section coding exercises. Now, these are particularly valuable because each of the exercises basically gets you to implement the design pattern that you've just learned about. Now, I have to warn you that some of these are going to be quite challenging because the design patterns themselves aren't always so easy to implement. In addition, I'm going to be using whatever modern editor features are available to me, so if you see me using things like code completion or code generation, that is going to be completely normal. In addition, I'm going to be using public members and avoid access modifiers when I can, simply to save some space and to save you some time. And finally, I'm going to avoid explicit argument names where relevant, so you're going to see a lot of underscores all over the place. And once again, this is because I'm trying to save you some time in actually typing things. So what are the prerequisites for this course? Well, first of all, you have to have a good understanding of Swift. So I'm going to be using things like generics and generic constraints and lambda functions, and I hope that you understand how these things work. In addition, you need to have a general understanding of object-oriented programming, so things like inheritance and access modifiers and that sort of thing. And finally, some of the topics I'm going to mention in this course in relation to the design patterns include things like sequence processing, so reactive extensions, concurrency, dependency injection, and some of the other common architectural approaches. Now, let me talk a bit about myself. Who am I and what I do exactly? My name is Dimitri. You can see a picture of me here on the right. I work in an area called quant finance, which is a combination of math, finance, and computing, including some sophisticated applications of high-performance computing. I am a conference speaker, a blogger, a user group leader, very involved in the community. I am an author of a large number of courses on places like Udemy, Pluralsight, as well as many other ones. And this is, just in case you forgot, a course on design patterns in Swift. So if you're ready to learn, then let's jump into the course and I will see you on the other side.